The wind carried a silence that didn't sit right. It was near dusk, that strange hour when the sun bleeds gold across the plains and every shadow feels like it's watching. The old rancher rode slow, boots creaking in the stirrups, reins loose in one hand, rifle strapped across the saddle. He wasn't looking for trouble, but sometimes trouble waits for you, still as stone in the middle of the road. That's when he saw it. A burlap sack, tied at the top, tossed beside the fence like garbage. At first he figured it was just feed gone bad, but as his horse drew near, the sack twitched, just once. He froze. The breath caught in his throat like a splinter. Another twitch, then a weak thud from inside. He dismounted slowly, boots sinking into the dirt. The sky dimmed as a vulture circled above. He knelt beside it, fingers hesitating at the twine. His voice barely above a whisper. "Lord, what the hell is this?" The sack moved again, this time with a faint sound, something like a breath, maybe a sob. He yanked the knot loose. Inside, curled and shivering, was a girl. Couldn't have been more than 20. Her wrists were bound, face bruised. Dried blood caked her temple. She blinked through swollen eyes, lips cracked and trembling. When she spoke, her voice was a ghost. "Please, don't let me go." The rancher's breath hitched. He looked around, nothing but open land and silence. Whoever did this was long gone, or close enough to still be watching. She coughed. Her whole body shook like a leaf in the wind. "Please, I won't run again. Just don't leave me here." He reached in and lifted her out, arms stiff with rage and sorrow. She was light as a scarecrow, and far too quiet. "You're all right now," he muttered. "Ain't no one gonna hurt you again." Her head dropped against his chest. He wrapped her in his coat, cradled her like she was something fragile but worth saving. And with one last look at the setting sun, he swung back onto the horse, holding her close. Some men ride toward the saloon, others ride toward salvation. And on that night, beneath a bleeding sky, one weathered man carried something more precious than gold. Hope, still breathing, wrapped in burlap and mercy. The wind howled through the canyon like it remembered. He rode hard, the girl cradled in his arms, her breath shallow against his chest. The horse's hooves kicked up dust, each beat echoing like a drum roll in the silence of the dying day. But his mind was trapped in her eyes, those wide, haunted things, eyes that had seen too much and been spared too little. She didn't speak again, not with words, but her body told the tale, shivering with every gust, flinching at every bump. He gritted his teeth, jaw tight with questions. Who would do this? Why dump her like that, alive? The answers came not from her lips, but from the memories she couldn't stop reliving. Darkness, rope, dirt under her nails. He buried her. He actually buried her, said no one would miss her, called her names no child should ever hear. Her stepfather, Elias Cobb, a man with fists for words and whiskey for blood. The kind of man who called cruelty discipline and silence obedience. She'd run before, twice. The second time, he broke her arm. But this time he tried to bury her alive. Back in the saddle, the rancher held her tighter. She whimpered in her sleep. He whispered like a prayer, "You're safe now, little miss. Ain't nobody putting you in the ground again." The sky darkened as the ranch came into view. Lanterns flickered on the porch. The scent of firewood drifted through the air like a promise, but his soul twisted because he knew. Men like Elias didn't bury mistakes. They came back to finish them. He didn't know her name, didn't know where she came from, but he knew this. He'd rather die than see her thrown away again. Her eyes fluttered open, glassy and full of fear. He said, "He's gonna come back for me," she rasped. The rancher's jaw clenched. "Let him try," he said, voice like gravel. "Let the devil ride up to my gate. I'll meet him there." And with the night pressing in and the ghosts not far behind, the wind carried her story across the plains. One of screams no one heard, until Mercy found her lying in a sack, still alive. The ranch sat quiet between two ridgelines, tucked beneath the open sky like it had always been there, forgotten by time, remembered by God. The porch lantern cast a soft amber glow as the rancher rode in, his coat wrapped around the girl. a head against his chest. Miriam opened the door before he knocked. She was weathered and wiry, with silver hair braided down her back and a Bible near the hearth. One look at the girl, and her jaw tightened. What in God's name? Found her in a sack by the road, he muttered, voice low. Still breathing, Miriam said nothing. She stepped aside and waved them in. Inside, the ranch smelled of cedar and black coffee. The fireplace crackled, pushing back the chill of the night. The rancher laid the girl gently on the couch. Miriam fetched hot water and a clean cloth. The girl whimpered when Miriam dabbed at her face. Her arms were scraped, wrists still red from rope. She needs real doctoring, Miriam whispered. She needs safety first, the rancher replied. Ain't no law I trust yet. The girl stirred, voice barely a thread. Don't tell him I'm here. Please, Miriam knelt beside her. Child, you're safe. No one's going to take you nowhere. The girl's eyes darted to the ribbon tied around her neck. She clutched it tight. My mama gave me this before she died. I kept it, even when... Her voice cracked. She's got fight left, the rancher said softly. She didn't give up. Miriam's eyes softened. Then she's worth every breath we got. They gave her tea, wrapped her in blankets. The storm rolled in slow, brushing against the windows like fingers. That night, the rancher sat outside with his shotgun across his lap. The porch creaked under his boots as he rocked back and forth, eyes scanning the ridgelines. He lit a cigar and let the smoke drift skyward. Inside, the girl lay still, her eyes open, watching the shadows dance across the wood beams. Somewhere, out beyond the hills, a man with a rotten soul might have marked her as disposable. But here, in the glow of firelight, she was more than a burden. She was somebody worth protecting, and for the first time in a long time, she could breathe. Morning broke slow, pale light spilling over the hills like a secret unfolding. The rancher stepped outside with coffee in one hand, the shotgun still leaning against the doorframe. Horses grazed quiet. Wind stirred the grass, but something felt off. Down near the fence line, the dust told a story, and it wasn't a good one. A set of footprints, heavy and staggered, led up to the ranch, and turned back. Boot prints. Fresh. He knelt beside them, the mug tilting, spilling steam into the dirt. Someone was here last night, he muttered. Miriam came out behind him, arms folded tight. Could have been a rider passing through, no horse prints. Just boots, his jaw locked. He scanned the horizon, squinting toward the ridgeline, and that's when he saw it. A figure, far off, half-shadowed by the rocks, watching, a wide-brimmed hat, a long coat, a cruel slouch that couldn't be mistaken. Elias Cobb, the man didn't wave, didn't shout, just stood there, grinning. Then he tipped his hat and turned away, vanishing into the hills like smoke. The rancher's fingers gripped the shotgun. Bastard sniffing around, he growled. Didn't finish what he started. Wants to now. Back inside, the girl was seated at the table, clutching a mug too tightly. Her eyes flicked toward the door. He was here. Wasn't he? The rancher nodded. She shook her head, voice barely there. He always comes back. Says I'm not allowed to leave. Says I belong to him. No, the rancher said, flat and cold. Not anymore. She looked up, tears held back by sheer will. He's not scared of nobody. The rancher turned to Miriam. Saddle my mare. I'm going to town. Sheriff? Miriam asked. Time someone official heard the truth. Outside, wind danced through the prairie grass. The girl stood at the window, staring toward the hills. A red-tailed hawk soared above the canyon, wings wide, free. She watched it with hollow eyes, because freedom to her still felt like something meant for other people. But she wasn't hiding anymore, and neither was the past. Out in the dust, the rancher mounted up, riding not just to town, but toward justice. The sheriff's office sat crooked at the edge of town, sun-bleached wood and a squeaky door that had seen more lies than justice. Inside, Sheriff Lane leaned back in his chair, boots on his desk, hat low over his eyes, until the rancher's shadow filled the doorway. Need a word, the rancher said, voice like gravel. Lane sat up slow. Morning to you too, they spoke behind closed doors. Dust filtered through the blinds as the rancher laid it all out. Finding the girl, the bruises, the sack. Elias Cobb watching from the ridge. Sheriff Lane listened, nodded, but his eyes stayed cautious. You got a name for her? No, she ain't said much. Doesn't trust law, Lane scratched his chin. A girl shows up half dead, no name, no family, no proof. You know how thin this sounds on paper, right? She don't need paper, the rancher snapped. She needs protection, Lane sighed. And what if Cobb walks in here with documents saying she's his niece? Legal guardian and all? We both know how men like him operate. Smooth talk. Snake charm. Just then, as if summoned, the door creaked open behind them. Elias Cobb stepped in, hat in hand, smug as sin. Afternoon, boys, he drawled. Heard someone been spreading tall tales about me. Came to clear it up. He handed over a folded paper. That there's proof she's mine. Been looking for her. Ran off again, poor thing. Got herself confused, you know? Lane eyed the paper. It looked official, but it reeked of lies. The rancher stepped forward, fists clenched. She ain't confused. She's terrified, Cobb smirked. She's delicate, emotional, got her mama's temper, that's all. Lane stood between them. Enough. There was tension, sharp and thick. Finally, Lane said, I'll look into it. But for now, she stays where she is. Under protection. Cobb's smile faltered. This ain't over, he hissed. She's mine. Always was. The rancher leaned in close, eyes hard as nails. Not tonight. Not ever again. Cobb turned and walked out, spurs ringing like a threat. Lane watched him go, then turned back. Keep her close. And keep your shotgun loaded. Outside, the wind kicked up the dirt. Justice in these parts wasn't swift, but it was watching, and sometimes it rode in slow. The sky cracked open just after sundown. Thunder rolled across the hills like distant hooves. Rain hadn't fallen yet, but the air was heavy, electric. The rancher stood on the porch, shotgun across his arms, eyes scanning the dark horizon. He knew what was coming. Men like Elias Cobb didn't slink away. They circled. They waited, and then they struck. Inside, Miriam double-checked the cellar latch. The girl sat by the fire, knees pulled to her chest, clutching her mother's ribbon like it might disappear. Her lips moved in silent prayer. A faint glimmer caught the rancher's eye. Torches. 4 of them, flickering down the ridge like fireflies from hell. Then came the shadows, riders, slow and deliberate. Elias in the lead. Behind him 3 others, rough, drunk, twisted with grins that had no kindness left in them. The rancher cocked his shotgun. Stay inside, he called without turning. Miriam, get her down to the cellar. What are you gonna do? She asked, voice trembling. He didn't answer. He just stepped off the porch and walked into the yard. Rain began to fall, soft at first. Then harder. Elias dismounted 10 paces away, torch in one hand, pistol in the other. Evening, he sneered. Came to collect what's mine. She ain't yours, the rancher growled. Not by blood. Not by God, Elias laughed. She's my property. Raised her, fed her, owned her. The rancher lifted the shotgun. You try taking one more step, and I'll bury you in the same dirt you tried to put her in. One of the gang fired a shot. The rancher dove behind the hitch post. Wood splintered. The night lit up with gunfire and thunder. Horses screamed. The barn caught fire. A torch tossed recklessly through a window. Flames bloomed fast. Inside, the girl sobbed in the cellar's dark, Miriam holding her tight. They'll kill him, she whispered. No, Miriam said firmly. Not him. He's still got fight. Outside, the rancher grunted as a bullet grazed his shoulder. He rolled, fired back. One outlaw dropped, screaming, but there were too many, too fast.